And welcome. David Levin here, Raising Your Game Today. This is Tuesday, so we're talking about the mental game of sports and competition. Fridays are for the rest of our lives. This week, I want to talk again about asshole coaches. I say again because I have another video on the subject. I'll put a link to that in the notes. But they're out there, and sometimes our kids get one. And what do you do about it? I'm thinking about this because a current client of mine, private coaching client, asked me about their coach in a recent call. We were talking about what we call high gravity items in the training, which are things in your life, situations, habits, people sometimes, that tend to pull you down and consistently do that and make it harder to perform at your highest level. And the idea is you want to identify these high gravity triggers and work to minimize and remove them from your life. So he said, how do you do that when it's your coach? And let's just stop there for a minute and say how truly wrong that is on the coach. How sad it is that this kid who's working so hard feels like his coach is one of his main barriers to being successful. I mean, come on, that is not right. This should not have to be said, but a coach should not be a kid's main barrier. He or she should be what helps the kid overcome their barriers, right? I mean, obviously, that's the whole idea. I mean, yes, at times, coaches need to push kids, of course, but this isn't that. The stories he told me weren't tough love. They were just harsh and mean and shaming. He said, it just seems like he hates my guts. Come on, how is that possibly good coaching? How should that person be anywhere near a young person's developing sense of self? They just shouldn't. But sometimes they still are. So setting that aside, you're the athlete. What do you do about it? How do you overcome that barrier? It's a two-part solution. They're both fairly advanced skills, and we teach both of them in our Advanced Mental Game Mastery course. But I'll lay them out here anyway, because even if you don't know exactly how to do them right now, it's still helpful to know it's possible, and maybe you will be able to do something with them. So the first part is to deal with the words themselves. And this can sound like a strange concept, but the reality is, when you look at what's actually happening in the moment, when someone's words are hurting our performance, it's because we're off in our head thinking about them. That's what's actually happening. Our brain brings them up for whatever reason. We essentially hear them again, and we start thinking about them again, which by definition means we're in our head. And as you've heard me say many times, being in your head is the number one killer of peak performance. So the solution, just at a very practical level, is to simply not allow yourself to do that. When you hear those words come up in your mind, you just say, no, not thinking about that, and you shut it down. So that is the specific skill, noticing unhelpful thoughts as they come up and simply refusing to engage. No, we're not talking about that. It does take some time and practice to get good at this, like any other skill, and especially with words that are more hurtful. The stronger the emotion in them, the harder it is to shut them down. But you can definitely learn to do it, and it is incredibly helpful in many more ways than just this, as you can imagine. The second piece is to deal with the emotions. So the words, the hurtful words, create negative feelings in us, right? We get mad, we feel disrespected, we can feel defeated, we can lose our confidence, our feeling of just being strong and capable. And all of that, obviously, is going to hurt our game. So the solution to that is to take that negative energy and in your mind, transform it into positive fuel to take your game higher. And the mechanism for that is similar to what we just talked about with the words. You notice the feeling, the negative feeling coming up, and rather than seeing it as bad or even saying, no, we're not going there, which actually works great in other situations, but if you want to turn it to positive fuel, rather than shutting it down, you reframe it. You feel the negative energy and you say to yourself, no, this is good, I can use this. You embrace it and sort of jump on a surfboard and ride the energy wave higher. Again, easier said than done, but you can learn to do it. They're a good example of this in elite athletes. You hear athletes telling their stories of doing a similar thing. It's definitely something you can learn to do, and just imagine the difference that can make for you. And by the way, this isn't only for young players dealing with asshole coaches. If you play yourself, you've probably also had the experience, I know I have, of an asshole opponent who hurt your game in a similar way. They piss you off, they get in your head, your game falls apart. Now, this is sort of a funny side observation. When that happens, we say what I just said, they get in your head, right? That's how we describe it. But what really happens is that they get you into your head in the way we just talked about. And maybe that just sounds like semantics, but it's an important distinction because when you see the mechanism and realize what's really happening, now you have the power to control it and keep it from happening. And if it does happen, to get yourself back out of there right away. Anyway, that is how to deal with an asshole coach or opponent. First, shut down the words. Don't engage with them. If your brain tries to bring them up and get you thinking about them again, you say, nope, not going there. And second, reframe the negative energy and feelings into positive fuel and use it to take your game to a higher level. For more on asshole coaches, check our post, Can We Please Stop Suggesting Kids to Asshole Coaches Subjecting, if I said that right. I'll put a link in the notes. To learn about our mental game training, both the foundational Raise Your Inner Game Sports Academy and the advanced training we talked about, go to raiseyourinnergame.com. Also a link to that here. Otherwise, that's it for this week. Thank you. Keep up the good work. I'll see you next time.